All right. So, good morning and thank you for joining us today for the Adavale Resources Investor Webinar. I'm Jane Morgan, Investor and Media Relations Manager, and today I'm joined by our Executive Chairman and CEO, Allan Ritchie. So, today's webinar, we will be running through the investor presentation, which was lodged on the ASX on the 29th of November, followed by a Q&A session. So, to ask a question throughout today's webinar, please use the Q&A function, which can be found at the bottom of your screen. But, Allan, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Jane, for that introduction, and thank you, everyone, for attending today's presentation. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our new transformational acquisition. It's this exciting gold and copper play in the New South Wales Lachlan Fold Belt. It's a Tier 1 jurisdiction, so I'll jump into that shortly. But before I do, I just wanted to let you know something that Adavale does particularly well is we find great exploration ground right next door to giants, so majors, and usually in areas where there is little to no vacancies left for further ground. So we do really corner that ground very well. So I'll launch into the Parks acquisition now. Firstly, just a quick disclaimer popping up on your screen. Now, it is definitely the right time on a number of fronts. I mean, if you look at, with Trump era economics coming into play, uncertainty that he does bring in to the table, he certainly does bring that element. We've had major macro uncertainties with wars and even South Korea recently. It has a great impact on the gold price. It does push the gold price up. So right now, there's a lot of macroeconomic, tailwinds behind a good, solid gold price. There's a lot of talk that it'll hit $3,000. But importantly, if you look at it from an Australian perspective, again, with Trump era economics, I think it'll be a stronger US dollar and a weaker Aussie dollar, which makes for a very good Aussie dollar gold price. It's definitely holding up well above $4,000 per ounce, and it seems to have created its new floor there. So that's fantastic for explorers and producers alike. Also, from a financial perspective, where we are in the right place in this Lachlan Fold Belt, it is significant for M&A. Over the last few years, there's been about $16 billion in M&A alone in just that region where we are. It's also been, and that's been, giants, Newmont and Newcrest and so on. But also what's been exciting is how beneficial it is to juniors. So we've had like 300 million in exploration earnings for juniors. Fortescue have taken up some ground in the region right near us. There are major players, doing joint ventures with juniors. So it's holding up well for all of us. Some exciting events keep coming out of that area too. So, the Lachlan Fold Belt, certainly an area where news will be coming generally, let alone Adavale's news. So, I mean, about a year ago, Waratah bought the Spur project. Again, from the vendor we've worked with too, actually, and they had a fantastic re-rate just on drilling, and they're sitting at about 6 times their old share price before this event. So there's been a lot going on in the region, and there'll be more coming, and hopefully, Adavale's transformational acquisition will be one of those events people talk about soon too. I'll just jump into where we are, and it's an exciting belt. Look, for explorers, it's all about location, location, location. And here I'm showing you the Lachlan Fold Belt. It is the right suburb, let's call it that. What we've got here is probably 160 million ounces or more of gold equivalent resources just in this area that you can see in this Lachlan Fold Belt. I mean, you've got the world-class Cadia mine just down here. North Park's right next door to our shiny bright yellow Adavale licenses there. And it's a very important location where on these green sort of tinges in the background here, these are the Macquarie Arc volcanics. That is the important area to be on. These have the wonderful Ordovician rocks, which are just the right geology for gold and copper. We've got our 4 tenement package right here, and we're looking forward to getting some exploration happening soon. We are drill ready with our targets, and I'll show you some of those shortly. Land access agreements are in place, so it's fantastic for Adavale to move quickly on this ground. Now, location, of course, that was the right suburb. Here is the right street. This Lachlan transverse zone is an important zone where it intersects with the Ordovician rocks of the Macquarie volcanic arcs. And you can see, look, Katie is right in the middle of that transverse zone, and that's a world class. Our giant neighbour, North Parkes, I mean, they're producing 50,000 ounces of gold and about 60,000 tonnes of copper metal. Look, even on our license package, we have our own London Victoria mine. It's a former mine with a historic resource, a remnant resource remaining of about 124,000 ounces. So it's a very exciting beginning for Adavale. It's definitely the right place. You know, what I did mention, we have got drill-ready targets. An even bigger bonus for Adavale is we've already got a diamond core drill hole recently completed. Very exciting one. Assays are pending, but here's a quick snapshot of the drill core tray. And you can see here, this is from our former historic mine. It's on EL 7242. It's called London. It's the London Victoria mine. It's a pretty interesting structure. And we've intersected some great quartz carbonate veining here. And you can see some of these alterations. The green rocks are exciting. I think there'll be some good grade in this quartz carbonate veining, but the green rocks here, the sericite pyrite alterations that you can see, there could be some very good grade in that too. Let me show you where we drilled actually. So this is our London Victoria mine, and you can see the pits here. So this pit here is about 100 meters deep. We drilled from this point here straight under the pit. We were testing for similar mineralization to what was mined, and that's what we think we've got. Of course, we've got to send that off for assays, but we've drilled probably 150 meters below that pit. So that would be about 250 meters below surface. That mine produced about 200,000 ounces over its time. BHP Gold did some work there, and Hargraves also finished off some of that mining as well. You know, good average grade, 2 gram per tonne. Look, some higher head grade at 4 gram per tonne has been evident as well. So look, that's a great beginning for Adavale already, and you know, with the diamond drill hole being prepped up for assays right now. And of course, we've got more exploration targets, importantly. So let me show you, this is the London Victoria license that we have here. So that's where the London Victoria mine sits, the former historic resource. Contiguous to that are 2 other licenses, abundant again with exploration targets. And that continues right up into our license, what we call front gate here, EL 8831. It comes in 2 areas. There's the eastern area and the northern area. And very exciting again for targets, great rock chip samples. Up here on the corner prospect, there was some RAB drilling done. There was some pretty interesting, you know, hit about 2 meters of 1.73 gram per tonne. So it's an epithermal style, shallower type of deposit potentially. So that's what we're hoping to also do some drilling up around corner quite soon. So it's one of our favourites definitely. But all of these are fantastic targets. And let me point to here, Magmatic have a license, and they've announced their Black Ridge 6-kilometre trend. It's a nice gold and copper trend as well. It comes right up into our license there as well. Now, interestingly, if you look at where Ashes and Mile are here, I'll show you on this image, this satellite image. This is our Ashes and Mile prospects. And I just want you to note, it looks like a long skinny license, but it's significant in its width. If we were fortunate enough to find something like North Parkes, which is only 5-6 kilometres away, the mine pit of North Parkes and the surrounds give you about a 3-kilometre extent, and that's how 3 kilometres sits on our license. So hopefully we get some nice numbers from our drilling, and you know, we'll see how we go. But it's nice to be in this location actually. So very exciting for us all. And let me tell you about the actual transaction. And this is what we paid. All scrip, firstly, I'd like to mention. So no cash, $900,000 in shares. So that's 300 million shares at 0.3%. So that's where we set the price. That's for 72.5% of the licenses, the 4 licenses that I was showing you. We also wanted to own that first drill hole, but if we couldn't get the the transaction done in time, and of course the vendor did begin the drilling. So we've acquired that drilling and paid a further 250,000 in shares for the drilling and some geology and so on. So that's a fantastic deal, all scrip. Exactly similar to the vendor's deal with Waratah. He's done the same structure with us. He's added some options to the package, and these options, he's done that at 0.6 of a cent, so 300 million more options at double the acquisition price, and 300 million more options at 4 times the acquisition price. The vendor would really like to see Adavale not continuing to raise capital, and hopes to see that his options and other options are exercised as we progress in hopefully what's a nice multiplying value proposition for our share price. If you look at what Waratah's performance was like, I mean, they were anywhere between 6 to 9 times the share price prior to their acquisition 12 months ago. So hopefully we're following those great footsteps too. Now, what makes things great for us all is announcements, and important catalysts will be coming up shortly. We will be getting out on our ground quickly. We have the ability to do 10 holes across our licenses. So we've got one done already. We will be doing more rock chipping, further target generation, and some drilling into Q2 of next year on both our front gate license, the one in 2 parts, and our no mistake license, where there's again an abundance of targets to hit up. Now, of course, there's our former resource that we want to bring up to a JORC standard, so we'll make that JORC compliant hopefully again by Q2. We expect our assays from that hole that I showed you earlier. Look, it'd be great to get a Christmas bonus, but time's running out. We will get that in early January, and we'll continue our resource definition drilling and complete a JORC resource by Q2. We also have our uranium licenses that are quite exciting, and we will do some work on that too. It's a nice low-cost program. We can do 20 holes for $200,000, and we're ready to do that. So let me show you a quick bit on our uranium tenements. We've got these exciting uranium tenements up here. We'll begin doing some drilling in the new year, and also we've got this package of licenses just in the northern north of Ceduna, which is a very good location right near the uranium deposit. We'll start over here as soon as possible with a quick program. In fact, let me show you it a bit closer. If you look at the particular area we will be doing our drilling, it's this license here. We've got approvals. We're just waiting for the Department of Mines to give us the final rubber stamp to continue with our drilling. And we're right next door to Heathgate. This is important. Heathgate are a producer. They've been producing for years. They have the Beverley and Beverley 4 Mile mines. Their land package comes right up to our license as well. And they're doing some expansion drilling of their resource as we speak. They're a private company, so we don't get to see much. They're not listed, so we don't get all their information, but we do have good conversations with them, and we're excited to have giant neighbours. Yet again, we've always got giant neighbours in ground where there's just no vacancies or very little vacancies. Also, the same thing goes with our nickel licenses. We're right next door to Lifezone Metals, which has BHP holding 17% of this particular deposit. It is the world's largest high-grade nickel sulfide deposit, so it's a significant deposit, and we've packaged a fantastic ground right around that. Look, nickel is a little off at the moment in terms of its commodity price, but we know commodity cycles do turn around, and we do expect at some point in the future that nickel will be back and pricing nicely, and we can look to that once again. But for now, it's a low-cost hold for these licenses, so this is ready for a future opportunity. Our uranium, look, uranium's pricing around the $80. We think uranium will go to about 150 or so, some of the punters say, so we'll be excited to get some value out of that in the future too. But gold and copper will be the focus for us for now, and we'll certainly do a fair bit of work on our ground, actually a lot of work on our ground. Now, just to show you the last slide here, this is our corporate overview. So look, post-acquisition, we will have over 2 billion shares. At some point in the new year, this is after the shareholder meeting to approve the acquisition and some of the placement that we've just raised, 1.675 mil that we've raised. It's in 2 tranches. So by the end of the second tranche, that is the amount of shares that will be on issue. At some point, we will look to do a consolidation, and more on that in the new year. Good thing is, look, your board, all of us, big holders. I'm one of the largest shareholders, well, top 3, mostly. There's some good newcomers always buying more, so that's great. We've all directors have taken nearly $100,000 in this current placement. I've taken half of that, 50,000 myself. Look, a number of our directors are able to take shares instead of cash. So I take just a little over $5,000 a month in shares only. Nick and John and Leonard have all joined either in whole or in part taking shares. So what we're doing is keeping our treasury reserved for as much work on the ground as possible. So we want to, we get the most value from drilling, from geophysical and geochemical work, and that's where we want to put our money. Also, we've got a nice tight top 20 with our cornerstone vendor coming in. That takes us to around 50%. The top 5 is about 25%. So it's a nice tight register. Our market cap post-raise should be, just around 6 mil. Once we approve that in January at the shareholder meeting, or we hope to have it approved at the shareholder meeting. So that's mostly what I've got to say, and I'm open for questions. Please.
Wonderful.
Any questions?
Well, yes, there's been quite a few questions come through, Alan. I might just get you to stop sharing your screen there and I can jump into them. And again, please use the Q&A function, which can be found at the bottom of your screen if you've got any questions. But let me kick off with them. And this one's come through a few times. So how does this acquisition align with Adavale's broader strategy?
Sorry about that. I've just stopped sharing. So yeah, look, our broader strategy is to maximize share price for shareholders. As I mentioned earlier, the board and management, we're all aligned with shareholders. We hold a fair bit of stock ourselves. By the end of this, I think I'll be about 45 to 50 million shares myself. So we want to see that performance. And how we'll do that is by spending money in the ground. That's what we'll do. And of course, we are focused on our gold and copper, but we do have uranium for when uranium has its second wave that we're all expecting. I think we all love uranium too, and nickel for some future point in time when that market turns around, as all commodities do.
Wonderful. And you did touch on this in the presentation quite significantly, but I think we're talking about the project's proximity to major mines. So how is this enhancing the potential value of our assets?
Fantastic question. So yeah, we always find ourselves, make sure we locate ourselves next to majors. The opportunities are the majors are doing a lot of work right around us. So we always get some further flow. It's always nice to see information from the region we're in. So we'll always, let our shareholders and our audience know about any other work that's happening in the Lachlan Fold Belt, or similarly with where our uranium is located in South Australia. And our nickel. Also, as a junior, it's nice to have big neighbours that may want to do some, a great uplift for us, say, with our nickel would be to have, perhaps BHP or one of the other majors want to do some work at the tenement level with us and actually increment our value. So that could be a good future way forward as well.
Wonderful. So next one, I'm jumping around a little bit here. Sorry, there's quite a few.
Go for it.
So, yeah. How does this acquisition impact Adavale's financial position and funding?
Okay, that's great. So actually, this slide over here still has that our pro forma net cash post the cap raise will be over 1.7 million. So by January, when the last tranche 2 settles, we'll be in a very good cash position, and most of that is going in the ground.
Wonderful. Another one again that's come through a few times, just on the work that needs to be done to convert to JORC for the London Victoria mine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I should have mentioned that earlier. So, look, we've had an independent, and I might just try and slide back to that slide as well. So we've had an independent geological review continuing, so we're still going through that. I mean, this mine pit here is about 100 meters in depth. We've drilled and found those wonderful cores that are yet to be assayed, but it does look like it's interpreted to be similar to the geology that was mined here. So we'll be working on that very quickly, and to get it to JORC, we could probably it could be just one more hole. It could be just one more hole. It might be two, maybe an RC hole may help, but definitely a pit survey, and we could do a nice drone pit survey. It's much lower cost. That'll give us give us what we need to be able to take that up to JORC. Hopefully, potentially, a little more than the 124,000 ounces that we think is there. Let's see what happens.
Wonderful. Again, quite a few questions coming through, so I'm just looping them in together. A lot of them actually talk about anticipated timelines and exploration for development, and then also just about the DD hole when the assays are coming through. But perhaps if you could just give our audience a little bit of an overview on news flow that's coming through for the next quarter.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, it's all about news flow, isn't it? So again, we're aligned with shareholders, we're investors as well as board and management, and we want to see good catalyst news flow coming soon too. So we're going to get on the ground and get quite active. You can see by Q2 there'll be a fair bit of drilling happening on both our front gate and no mistake licenses. London, Victoria. Look, as soon as we get our assays, we'll continue our resource definition drilling. So we've got permits. We have permits across our licenses for 10 drill holes, and we've only done one of them. So there's going to be a lot of news coming, from the new year onwards. The assays will, as I say, hopefully early in the new year, and we'll continue, giving more information with drill results and rock chip results and, new target generation. We'll keep the market really well informed. And of course, we've got our uranium licenses that we'll be doing some work on. So plenty of news. Definitely pregnant with news flow, without a doubt.
Wonderful. Well, actually, I think that actually covers all the questions that we have here today. If we have missed any of your questions, please feel free to reach out by the contact details, which can be found at the bottom of our ASX announcements. But I want to thank you all for joining us again today, and we look forward to hosting you again next time.
Thank you, Jane. It was a pleasure, and thank you everyone for attending.